All right. So first things first, gentlemen, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm very good. Very good. Thank you for asking. Now, where I want to start is from the first note of the new album. It goes very hard immediately. Was that kind of by design? And what was the overall approach to the new record?
Tim, you want to take that? That's your song, your favorite song.
Oh, the first song on the record. We love not beating around the bush as a band and just fucking jumping right into shit. Like first couple singles, you kind of get the same vibe where it's like it just starts right out the gate. So I think like we have a lot of like that, like just jump right out you factor in the new record for sure. And just in our music in general, we kind of like having that like instant wow factor that just like you know people that react to music are gonna just have that reaction. So I think there's a lot of that like throughout the whole new record too as well.
Yeah, you mentioned. I mean, you guys have always been good at cutting the fat, if that makes sense. Kind of
Mhm.
not putting anything unnecessary in there. So where does this mentality or ethos come from?
um I feel like we go through like the recording process, and we it's so extensive that eventually like we kind of can just be like, oh, this is getting a little extra. Or like I feel like our fan base kind of argues that point a little bit. They kind of think that some of the stuff we do is unnecessary. And like for example, like the interlude hard bass song on the last record that we had, like people were like, what is this? They didn't really get it. But that was just like, oh, we like hard bass, let's put a hard bass song in there. And it's like 36 seconds of music, so we didn't think it was like overbearing, but to other people, who knows. But even with like we have like a section similar on Pale Light, the second single that we just dropped. It's just, I don't know, like I feel like that section originally was like a minute long and the song was like 5 minutes or something. And I remember Matt being like, that's way too fucking long. We need to like cut that in half. So I feel like we just, since we're like in the studio for a month at a time, we have that time to kind of like sit on the songs and like pick apart, like, okay, maybe we can trim this down a little bit, or this doesn't need to be there, or so on and so forth.
Yeah, and am I right in saying that what you just now mentioned, Tim, being in the studio together writing songs, that's kind of a new approach because in terms of how you used to write for previous albums, or no?
It's pretty much been the same for, I want to say, all three LPs. It's
Okay.
kind of like we always like initially write the songs at home. Like Cory will write a song and send it, or I'll write a song and send it, or Cody will write a song and send it, and then Matt will put vocals on it. And then like once we get to the studio, we kind of like pick everything apart, and then like some songs don't even end up making it, and we just write new ones there together with
Okay.
Randy in the studio. So
Yeah, because I read somewhere that for this one you went into the studio for 6 weeks. So do you go in there with a bunch of ideas, or do you kind of see what happens once you're there?
yeah, we go in with just like we already have like a folder of like 8 to 10 songs, and then we write more with Randy, and we like straight up. I think this time we had like 17 or 18 songs, and we cut it down to the 11 or so that are on the record.
Okay.
So it's always like it's been like it was like that with the last record that we did with him too. So we always kind of like try and like go in with stuff to work with, and then like a lot of the best stuff that we actually come out with is written there.
Did you, as a band, have a lot of conversations beforehand then to as to where you want to go with this new album, or what kind of both sonically and lyrically?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we talked about it all the time. I don't want to say we would argue about it because that sounds probably a bit more intense than like the reality of it. Um, but we had many conversations where, like, before we got into the studio, we wanted to make sure we were on the absolute same identical page of like, so we're all in agreement. We're going for this with the record, right? That way we
Mhm.
could spend as little time in the studio arguing.
Mm,
Um, because that's going to happen no matter what. Anytime you make a record, like anything collaborative between six people, not everyone likes the same stuff. Some
sure.
ideas people love, some people hate. Um, and we're good about that. Like we're super vocal as far as if we like an idea or don't. But with that can come some pretty distracting and progress halting arguments. If someone's feeling incredibly passionate about one part or one song, and say me, for example, goes, I can't write to this. It's so boring. I can't do this. It doesn't do anything. The song sucks. Stuff like that. So we wanted to avoid that as much as possible because last record, especially, I remember a ton of that. A lot of conversations about like, what are we doing? Is this part as cool as we think it is? Do we even like it? Stuff like that. We wanted to avoid that as much as possible.
But I do find that thought interesting because I suppose when you're working on your first EPs and perhaps the debut album even, you don't really have that audience yet that you kind of are aware of. So has that changed anything in terms of the songwriting over the years? Because you mentioned all those conversations and thinking about what the identity of the band is and so forth. So is it more difficult to navigate what you as a band want to do now that you know that there is an audience?
I've always disregarded the audience. I've always been team alienate and ostracize.
Yeah, I think like everyone in the band is kind of like we
Okay.
obviously like we know what our fans like and we're always gonna do what our fans like, but to a degree, like I feel like the basis of what this band is built upon is just we're gonna write and record music that we like, and that's that. You know, if people like it, cool. If people don't like it, sucks.
Oh, we could write a record that our fan base would love in 20 minutes. Like we know exactly what they want from us. But if we start doing that, then we're not making stuff for ourselves anymore. And what are we even doing here?
Well, if we take a quick step back, then what was the initial? I mean, maybe this is a little bit too contrived, but what was the initial aim of starting the band then? With just having fun and trying to make something cool?
Yeah, I mean, for this band, like if we're talking back like 2015, it was just me and Matt, where it's like our previous bands have like literally just broke up like within a year, and we're like, we need
Okay.
something else to do just to do it. And it kind of started picking up steam in Connecticut like a little faster than we expected. And now here we are.
But what made Boundaries different than those previous bands, where it did last?
I think me and Matt didn't hate each other.
Yeah, valid.
That always helps.
Yeah. Boundaries was like already because it was from broken up bands, you've already passed like the prerequisite of, okay, well, at least I know you're kind of interested or serious about this. Whereas like when you're just like a teenager starting bands, 99% of those people are not going to have careers in music. You're just a teenager starting a band.
Sure.
This was a little more honed in, given that we had at least a little bit of experience. So we knew it's like at least some of the mistakes we had already made that we weren't going to do again, stuff like that.
What I find fascinating then is you mentioned that kind of separation from those who just do it for fun for a couple of years and then go off and get a real job, and then those people who stick with it and tour, and especially early on, that can be quite difficult and perhaps feels like a risk. So, in your eyes, what is the difference between those who continue and those who kind of do it more as a hobby?
I think everyone needs something different or wants something different from music.
But is there like a common denominator in between people who kind of go for it?
I guess people who are really reliant on security, because what we do is not secure in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I think like I feel like people who want to tour have always known that they want to tour. I feel like there's some people I feel like that's just what it comes down to, is like people will have the mindset like, I like playing music, but it's impossible to make it a job, so I'm just gonna like do this for fun. And then some people go in with the mindset like us, where it's like it's this or nothing, you know. And I think like all of us being on that same page helps a lot with moving it towards something that could be secure.
Sure.
But like Cory said, I think like the security factor is like the big thing keeping people from taking that step towards like, I want to be in a full-time touring band.
Mm. What is it then for somebody who's never been on stage to perform for people? What is that feeling like, and why is it so addictive in a sense?
It's fucking crazy, man. Like I thought I would like get used to it, and you never do. Like to a degree, I guess you do. Like a week into tour, I guess you get used to, okay, I've been doing this every night. But like I don't think like the initial like nerves or chills or like feeling that you get like playing in front of a bunch of people that are like stoked to see your band, like I don't think that goes away. It's hard to explain. Like even from like the first time any of us have stepped on a stage, I'm sure like I speak for all of us when I say like it's just like a very crazy feeling to be playing in front of an audience.
I also would say that it's totally possible that it does go away, but just for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that like we operate so well as a band is because we found 5 people it didn't go away for. So I don't know if that's common. I don't know if that's how every band operates. But we're lucky enough that we have 5 people that are excited to do it every time, that just really like performing, like connecting with people, like making music.
Sure.
And we're not sick of it yet.
That's awesome to hear. And I have one last question before we jump into the album a little bit deeper. But you mentioned earlier on kind of wanting to figure out kind of what you wanted to do once you got into the studio, and being honest to each other, saying, well, this part I think sucks, or whatever. Is that something you had to learn, to be honest with each other, or did that kind of come immediately?
We are the way that we operate is very much like that. We're a pretty intense group of people to each other. Like we always say it, like it's in an like an endearing way too. We love arguing, but it's in a good way. Like the arguing is good.
Yeah, it's not like the like Metallica in the studio. Like it's not like that shit. It's like it makes us a better band. Like the band is better as a result. And most of the time it's just us having good fun too, you know. It's never to the point where it's like I actually want to rip Cory's head off or something, you know. It's always just like we're mainly joking around, but to a point, like it's also important as like from a productive standpoint, you know.
Sure. Is there then one song that ended up on the album that initially there were a lot of hesitations about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Every record we have those.
Okay.
Because like we just as a group of people have such different music tastes. For like Cory, one of his biggest things, his biggest influences, everything is Avenged Sevenfold. I think that band sucks.
Band is awesome.
Yeah, see, and Tim, it's pretty much just me that's like, I think this shit kind of stinks. I don't get the vibe. I think his voice is stupid. I don't know what we're doing here. But then I have bands like that for them as well.
Sure.
So like everything is a point of contention in this band, but like in a way that has always been beneficial because it keeps us from also making the same record twice.
Well, no, I would also say it means, one, that you all care about what you're putting out, and also, as you kind of alluded to, Tim, kind of honing that or kind of sharpening that, making the song as good as it can be needs kind of friction, I suppose, in a way. You need to, because if you would be happy with every idea, then it wouldn't go anywhere, I suppose.
There always needs to be that perspective of like, oh, maybe it does suck in order to figure out like if it does or doesn't, you know.
But
yeah, someone in the room has to be like, this could not be as cool as you all think it is.
Mm-hmm.
But is there one song that we can pick out then that the three of you are kind of surprised by that it ended up on the album?
Probably the last song, right?
Yeah, the last song, because like at least for me and like some other people, that was my favorite one. But like other people's like had harder time with it, and eventually it came together in a very, very good way. And I'm very happy with it.
What did you
Yeah.
say to convince the rest of the guys?
It wasn't even saying anything. It was just over time. It just like I don't know what happened, but something happened, and just
I think
it worked.
once Matt like put vocals on it, it helped a lot. Like I think it was just like one of those things where it's like instrumentally, like as soon as I heard it, I was fucking stoked on it, and then Matt was like, "This kind of sucks." And then it was also like the last song that Matt wrote vocals for, and then when he actually put vocals on it, I think like the group, because I think like Nathan was kind of on a similar page where he was like, "Yeah, this song I could take or leave." And it was also like one of the first songs demoed for the record too.
Okay.
So I think like stewing on it for so long and then finally hearing like a product that had like the vocals and like everything intertwined, like I think it was kind of like, oh, okay, this like actually does work in context with the record.
And for you then, Matt, whenever you hear, for instance, a demo for Inhale the Grief, does that influence your writing as well, or do you already have kind of an idea of where you want to go with the lyrics?
It's half and half. I do a lot of writing, just like always.
Okay.
So when it is time for songs, I have at least something to base it off of usually. As far as like what lyrics end up on specific songs, that's much more dependent on like instrumentally what's going on. I would never
Sure.
want to write something, sensitive and somber on a track that it doesn't belong on and make it jarring in that way and vice versa. So I always have stuff that I'm pulling from, which is helpful. But nothing actually gets like demoed or put onto instrumentals until we're in the studio usually.
When did that line from Dante's Inferno then become kind of this key phrase for the album?
Super early on. I
Okay.
think when I was probably last summer when we were kind of gearing up into like, hey, we're gonna do another record. And I had felt like I had done and I had said what I needed to largely. So I was looking for like outside influences for,
Sure.
okay, well, what can this next record be about? Or what should it say? What should it do? Because I had done the whole super vulnerable, talking about my own life, my own experiences thing, and I was feeling kind of tired of that. I was feeling kind of hoard out. Like, oh, so my life just has to be terrible all the time, otherwise I have nothing to write about, sort of deal. And so trying to avoid that, I went outward and was just, I mean, I read a ton of books, any movie I could watch, any show I could watch. I was just consuming like all the other media I could to be like, okay, well, what am I connecting with? And that just happened to hit me in a way where I was like, I can do this.
Okay. I'm going to turn it around a little bit. So first I'll start with you, Cory. Is there one piece of lyric or maybe just a phrase or a line on the album that you were really impressed by that Matt wrote?
Oh, yeah, a compliment from Cory? This is a delightful change of pace.
I do it all the time. When I first heard the chorus to Pale Light, it was like, one, it's an amazing chorus, and two, there was like the pitched yelling to it, and just that like whole phrase it just hit me. I don't know, I loved it the second I heard it.
And for you, Tim?
Oh man, I love all of it so much. Like just definitely overall, like I think like Brightness obviously had some great lyrics, but this record, like I feel like Matt not feeling that pressure to be like vulnerable made the result like all that much better and like more poetic and awesome. Dude, honestly, and with that being said, I fucking hate you is awesome. As soon as I heard it, I was like, that's right.
And then in fairness, I will quickly ask Matt, what is one of your favorite drumming parts by Tim and one of your favorite guitar parts by Cory on the album?
Ha! What a wonderful question. Because Tim is such a madman. Like the drum writing process is him and our producer Randy sitting in like those shitty wooden kitchen chairs in front of a computer, going like, no, don't make it go da da da, make it go da da da. Like, and they do that for like a week straight. And that's not a type of brain power that I've ever had within me. So I would say not so much a specific part with Tim, but just like the way his mind works and like how he writes music is on like a level above, I think, anyone else in the band or anyone that I've ever interacted with. He like Tim, like we say this all the time. Tim's like the musician in the band. Like if this band doesn't work out, you'll just find Tim somewhere else in a different one. Like he was always meant to do this. He's too good at everything. Like he's not even really a drummer. He just happens to drum for our band. But like every other band, he would sing, he would play guitar. Like he does it all. Cory, go fuck yourself.
That rules.
Shall we leave it there?
Cory is very good at bridging gaps. I would say he is the way that this band really works, because like you said earlier, we're all super intense individuals and we have really strong feelings about how a song should sound, how this band should sound. Oh, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want people to get this impression about us. I don't want there to be too much singing. I don't want this song to just be breakdowns into breakdowns. And that the job of that kind of always falls on Cory. Because with me, I don't have any type of, I can't play an instrument. So everything I suggest is just like, okay, well, this is what I would like it to sound like, but I can't help you get there. And if you try and I don't like it, I'm going to say I don't like it. So he's kind of constantly dealt the hand of, okay, well, how do I put this song in a way that everyone's happy with? And that's something he's very good at.
Kind of the glue guy.
Absolutely. It used to be he did a majority of the writing, like with especially like the first LP. And he still does a lot of it, but now with Cody, our other guitarist, with Tim, and then our bassist that joined most recently, Nathan, the writing power has, quadrupled because all of like Cody's a savant. Nathan has music tastes unlike anyone else in this band. That guy is a music enjoyer, so he brings a really wide perspective on the type of stuff that he's into. So the task of making a record that we like is exhausting because we all like too much different stuff, and that's something Cory's very good at. Is okay, well, what if it does this? And then, you don't want it to be melodic. What if we put a blast here? Stuff like that. He's very good at holding it together.
Now, I've mentioned the audience a little bit earlier in this interview, and now from what I could gather from the new songs and kind of how people are hearing them, they're really excited for the new album to come out. And I see comments like 2024 is going to be Boundaries year and all that similar type of phrase. How do you see this upcoming year and the importance of this album for the band?
I think this album is doing exactly what we want it to already as we roll it out, where it's like I've seen a ton of comments like, I've tried to give Boundaries a chance before and like I couldn't really get into it, but now like this is a contender for my album of the year this year. It's like I don't know what we're doing differently, but it seems like we are doing something differently enough to people are giving us a second chance, and the people who have been with us are continuing to, you know, show their support. And you know, I think a lot of like there are the few people that are like, oh, clean vocals, I can't listen to this band anymore. You know, there's like a couple people that like we've definitely lost in the rollout process, but I think a lot of the people that support and enjoy our band are a fan of this band because we take risks and because we just do what we want to do, like full-fledged. It's not like contingent on anything else.
Right.
So but that being said, I think like a lot of these new people that are getting involved and enjoying the music and like buying tickets to our tour, like I think it's gonna be like, I don't know, just seeing all those comments like it's gonna be there a year, like it feels like it is, like it feels good. Like a lot of people saying like, I hated this band a year ago and now I love them. It's like, okay, cool, like love to hear that. I'm glad we did something that you like.
Certainly better than the other way around, right?
Yeah, we've got those too, but it's like whatever. Fucking kick rocks, I don't care.
But if we look at that, because you mentioned the tour, I believe you're going in tour here in Europe in April, and then you're touring the US in May. And I wasn't sure if I read this right, but are these going to be the first headline tours?
In the US, yeah.
US is our first headlining, yep.
Because is that important, and what is that a different approach to the show?
Oh yeah, it's a lot more. It's terrifying because all these numbers and stuff mean a lot to our future and like the amount of people that come to these shows, but there's just so much more that goes into headlining because now like you have to take care of all the support bands. Like you have to advance with all the venues and make sure everything's taken care of. And on top of that, we're bringing more like production for our show to just make the experience better. It's like not something we can do when we're not headlining.
Yeah, and we're also playing a set that is triple the length we usually play. So, and it's like we had like, speaking of arguing, we literally had like a Discord call the other night, like what are we playing on the headliner, and I think it lasted fucking 3 hours. Like I was just like arguing, like I remember texting the chat like before we had the calls, like this should be pretty easy, we'll just play the hits and then throw a few deep cuts in. And it wasn't easy at all. Like it was just like back and forth for hours figuring out what the hell we're gonna play on this tour. So there is a lot that goes into it for sure.
I have one last question because I do find that interesting. I mean, I would say from the beginning of the band, the music has been very. It sounds like it would do well live, if that makes sense. So, but that's from the outside perspective. Does it happen that certain songs, perhaps that sound great on the record, they just don't translate to the live setting? What have you noticed about the new songs, the new album? Are there any songs that really stick out that will do well live?
There's absolutely some songs that don't transfer live, and it's disheartening when it happens. But like I feel like we've written it's always like the songs that are like insanely hard to play, and I personally feel like we can play them, but we have to focus more on the playing than the performing, and I feel like that takes away from the energy of the audience when they're like, oh, these guys are like, now they're staring at their guitars instead of like headbanging until their fucking head flies off. You know, I feel like that does have a certain effect on like the audience's perspective on everything. So we kind of try and keep it like in the middle. Like we there's a lot of songs on Burying Brightness and You're Receding Warmth that'll probably just never be played unless we do like an anniversary tour if we're still together 10 years, 15 years from now. But like there's some songs on those records that will never see the light of day, or only saw the light of day like once or twice because we played it and we were like, oh, no one gave a shit, huh? Okay, on to the next one, you know? So, but I feel like new record wise, like there's really no way to tell until it's out. Like we see which ones are performing better than others, and then you just take it from there. Try playing them, and if it sucks, it sucks, and then try another one, you know?
Have you played any of the songs live yet?
No.
Nope.
Okay.
It'll be the first time we're playing them will be in Europe next month.
It's going to be in the Netherlands, right? Where I'm from, in Dordrecht, I believe.
Yes, that's the first day. Yep.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, I wish you the best then with trying to figure out how to play the songs live and with the release of the album.
Awesome. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
Of course.
Of course.
Absolutely. Thank you.